All right, today we're jumping into a kind of scientific detective story. We're on a mission to find the world's most resilient kiwi fruit. And I don't just mean a tough plant. We're talking about one that can survive and even thrive under some seriously stressful conditions. So let's get right into it. Now, just so you know where we're getting this from, our whole story is pulled directly from a 2023 study published in the Turkish Journal of Agriculture and Forestry. So yeah, this isn't just a guess. It's based on a real, honest-to-goodness investigation. And now that we've got our source, let's dig into the mystery these researchers were trying to solve. I mean, you've probably seen this before, right? Maybe with your own houseplants. You give them water, they get sunlight, but then all of a sudden the leaves turn this sickly yellow and start dropping off. Well, for kiwi fruit growers, this isn't just a little problem. It's a huge threat to their entire crop. So it turns out there's this hidden culprit lurking in the soil and the irrigation water. It's like a secret saboteur that's attacking these kiwi plants from the inside out. Okay, the enemy has a name: bicarbonate-derived chlorosis. I know, that's a mouthful, but here's what you really need to know. Think of high bicarbonate as junk food for the plant. It's in the water, but it actually blocks the plant from soaking up the good stuff, the essential nutrients like iron. So the plant is basically starving. And those yellowing leaves, that's its first cry for help. So now that we know the enemy, the scientists decided to set up the ultimate stress test. The goal was simple: find out if any kiwi varieties out there had the genetic grit to stand up to this nutritional bully. And here they are, our 6 contenders. Each one is a different type of kiwi fruit with its own unique genetic blueprint. We've got some from the fuzzy kiwi family, some of the smaller, smooth-skinned guys. You can think of this as a kind of botanical boot camp designed to separate the tough from the weak. The experiment itself was pretty straightforward, but really intense. First, they grew some healthy seedlings. Then, for 6 weeks straight, they just hammered them with water that had higher and higher doses of bicarbonate. And all the while, they were meticulously tracking every little sign of distress to see which plants would bend and which ones would break. Okay, let's move on to the first round of results, the visual evidence. This is what the researchers could literally see happening right before their eyes. So, the first major sign that a plant is giving up is something called leaf abscission. All that means, in simple terms, is that the plant starts cutting its losses. It literally drops its leaves just to conserve energy. And this is where it gets really interesting. Just look at the sheer contrast here. On one end, you've got the AA genotype. It was a total disaster, losing over 16% of its leaves. But then, look at the DA1 genotype, also known as Bruno. It lost just over 1%. It barely even seemed to notice the stress. That's a huge difference right out of the gate. And here's the next big clue, that telltale yellowing. The CK1 genotype got hit hard, with almost 40% of its leaves showing those signs of starvation. But the DA2 genotype? It held on tough, with only about 7% of its leaves turning yellow. So yeah, the visual evidence was starting to paint a very, very clear picture. But, looks can be deceiving. To really solve this case, the scientists had to go deeper. They needed to look at the forensic evidence, the chemical fingerprints inside the plant's leaves. You know that vibrant green color in leaves? That comes from chlorophyll. It's basically the engine that powers photosynthesis, turning sunlight into life-giving energy. So when a plant can't get the nutrients it needs, that engine starts to sputter and fail. And this really gets us to the core of the whole investigation. What exactly was that bicarbonate doing to the plant's supply of critical minerals? Things like iron and zinc. Well, the findings were pretty dramatic. Under maximum stress, the iron content in that vulnerable CK1 genotype just plummeted by 42%. Iron is absolutely essential for making chlorophyll. Without it, the plant's energy factory just shuts down. This right here was the chemical smoking gun. And it wasn't just iron. Zinc, which is another mineral that's vital for growth, also took a massive nosedive. The AA genotype lost 38% of its zinc. The chemical story was just undeniable. The bicarbonate was successfully choking off the supply of nutrients for most of our contenders. So, we've seen the visual evidence, we've analyzed the chemical fingerprints, and after 6 weeks of intense pressure, one contender didn't just survive, it stood strong. It's time to name our champion. And the winner, the undisputed champion of this brutal stress test, is the Bruno genotype.
This kiwi proved to be in a class of its own. It just shrugged off that bicarbonate assault like it was nothing.
So, what was Bruno's secret? Well, the researchers spell it right out for us in their conclusion. Its superpower was this unique ability to keep absorbing and holding on to iron and zinc, even when its environment was actively trying to starve it. So the crucial point is this. Bruno won because it had a superior defense system. It refused to shed its leaves, and on a microscopic level, it just fought back, making sure its internal supply lines for iron and zinc stayed open. While all the other plants were starving, Bruno found a way to keep feeding itself. And that leaves us with a bigger and honestly a more important question. This research is more than just a little contest for kiwis. It's a potential roadmap. If we can understand the genetic secrets of Bruno, could we breed that same resilience into other crops? In a world with more and more challenges to our soil and water, finding the Bruno of every food might just be one of the most important quests of all.